Over the past 5 years, Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc-V received a surprisingly amount of new support, but which character actually benefited the most? In my previous video, I analyzed every new Yu-Gi-Oh! Card release from the past 5 years to determine the top 10 most supported characters overall, and ranked each series based on how much support they received. But this time we're focusing entirely on Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc-V. I'll be ranking the top 10 most supported characters based on the number of new cards they received in the past 5 years. And now without any further ado, let's get started.
Alright, if you haven't seen my original analysis yet, and wondering how these numbers came to be, it explains how the data was collected and organized. The link to that video is in the description. This support covers everything from Toon Chaos all the way through Maze of the Master. Coming in at number 10 is Lulu Obsidian with her Lyrilusk archetype. Most of her support came from a single set, Legendary Duelist Synchro Storm, which introduced 7 new cards to the flock. She also received 1 additional support card in Brothers of Legends. I definitely did not expect her to crack the top 10, especially since she beat out both Yuto and Sora, who are both tied for 11th place with 7 support cards each. And now things start to get even more interesting, because the next 3 characters are all tied with 9 support cards each. Let's go through them one by one. First up is Dennis McField, all thanks to the new cards released in Maze of the Master, which introduced 8 of his 9 total support cards. The other was Performate's Ball Balancer, a one-off card from Rage of the Abyss. Interestingly, Maze of the Master finally gave us some long-awaited cards from the anime, including 2 of his boss monsters, Performate Shadowmaker and Trapeze High Magician. Shadowmaker first appeared in episode 59 of the anime, which aired back in June 2015 in Japan. So this card took nearly 10 years to finally get printed. Clearly, Konami held off for her own safety. These cards were just too busted for 2015 Yu-Gi-Oh! Coming in tied with Dennis is Gong Strong with his Super Heavy Samurai archetype. First he received a one-off support card in Rise of the Duelist, Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow, which got banned almost immediately after the Super Heavy Samurais received their second wave of support in Cyberstorm Access. The deck became a menace in Master Duel for months, consistently summoning multiple big generic Omni-Negate monsters. Now that the real offenders are gone in the TCG, maybe Konami will stop blaming and finally release the innocent Scarecrow. He just wants to summon big heavy dudes in defense position. Sharing the same spot as the previous characters is none other than Zark, the ultimate villain of Arc-V. Most of his support came from Age of Overlords, which introduced 7 new cards to the strategy. This wave finally made Zark a playable deck on its own. A few sets later, in Legacy of Destruction, Konami introduced a Synchro version of Zark, Synchro Universe. I think this card is pretty cool, but as far as I know, it doesn't really do much for the Zark strategy just yet. I'm really hoping Konami follows up with an Xyz version next, something that actually helps push the deck forward. Next, just one card ahead of the previous 3 characters, we have Akaba Reiji or Declan in the dub. His support was spread across a lot of different sets. Rise of the Duelist, Lightning Overdrive, Ghost from the Past 2 and Battle of Chaos, which added the most with 4 new cards. Then in Battle of Legend Monsters Revenge we've got the first ever quadruple D monster, Super Dimensional Sovereign Emperor Zero Paradox. Outside of that one card, it's been quiet on the Declan front since early 2022. Japan recently got a few new Double D cards in Premium Pack 2024, but with those kinds of products, it's always a mystery when we'll see them in a TCG. At this point, I'm just waiting for Konami to finally drop the first ever Octuple D monster. And I want it to have a mandatory effect where you have to say the entire name out loud every single time you activate its effects. Sliding into the number 5 spot with 11 support cards, definitely not a character I expected to be here, is Sergei Volkov. And the reason Sergei ranks this high is because Konami decided to print and release his Earthbound deck almost all at once. 9 cards were introduced in Maze of the Millennia at the beginning of 2024, and the remaining 2 came from Age of Overlord and Phantom Nightmare. This wave focused on a sub-archetype for the Earthbound theme, but instead of focusing on the Earthbound Immortals from 5Ds, this one centers around the Earthbound Prisoners and Servants, bringing fusion and synchro summoning into the strategy for the first time. And just like that, Sergei finds himself in the top 5 most supported Arc-V characters. For the next spot we actually have 2 characters tied with 12 support cards each. But there's one I really want to focus on first, because I'm genuinely not sure how to handle this one. Moonshadow. In the anime, Moonshadow used a ninja deck built specifically around the Twilight Ninja monsters and a variety of ninjutsu art spell and trap cards. Over the last few years, we've gotten a lot of new ninja support, especially in Darkwing Blast, followed up by 4 more cards in Photon Hypernova. But these new cards don't mention Twilight Ninjas at all, and none of the specific ninjutsu art cards Moonshadow actually used in the anime have been printed yet. That said, they're still part of the ninjutsu art series. Honestly, I'm still on the fence about it, so let me know what you think in the comments. Should generic ninja support count toward Moonshadow or not? And while you're down there, don't forget to support another underappreciated character, me. Collecting and organizing all this data for each Yu-Gi-Oh series took me weeks. So if you're enjoying these ranking videos, be sure to like, subscribe and let me know how you'd categorize characters like Moonshadow. Your feedback helps me refine the data for these videos even further. Now, as for the second character tied at 12 cards, that's Shay Obsidian with his Raid Raptor deck, coming in at number 3. He received 5 new cards in 2020, 2 in Rise of the Duelist and 3 in Phantom Rage. But what really pushed Shay's deck to the next level was the wave of support in Phantom Nightmare last year, which brought 7 brand new cards. That includes its latest boss monster, Raid Raptor Rising Rebellion Falcon, the second rank 13 monster ever printed, joining the ranks of Dawn 1000's infamous Numeronius Numeronia. This new support was even strong enough to push Raid Raptors into rogue competitive territory for a while. Shay put up a great fight to climb into Arc 5's top 3, but even ranking up to 13 wasn't quite enough to secure the second or first place. Because coming in at number 2 is Yugo with 16 support cards. This probably won't surprise most people, since Yugo was by far the second most prominent U-boy in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. He received a few scattered support cards across different sets, but the bulk of his support came from 2 major waves. 7 cards in Legendary Duelist Synchro Storm, and another 5 in Supreme Darkness. That second wave also introduced a brand new boss monster, Crystal Clearwing Over Synchro Dragon, a level 12 Synchro boss monster. Awesome to see that the U-boy representing the Synchro dimension finally getting a level 12 Synchro boss monster. But of course, the spotlight was always going to end up on one character, the king of dual-taning, Yuya Sakaki. Most of Yuya's support came from Dimension Force and Battles of Legend Monsters Revenge, each contributing 5 new cards. Dimension Force also introduced the first ever Ritual Pendulum monster for Yuya, which really should have happened in the anime. That way he could have showcased every summoning mechanic up to that point. But hey, better late than never. In addition to those, a few more cards were released across other products. And those were the top 10 characters who received the most support from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. But that's far from the full story, because Arc 5 had a lot of characters, and quite a few of them still got some love in the last 5 years. So now let's swing through the rest of the cast in rapid fire style and take a quick look at what support they received. Yuto and Sora came in tied with 7 support cards each, right after Lulu. Coming in at 13 is Yuri, with a total of 6 support cards, most of which came from the Dimension Force core set, along with a bunch of Yuya's cards. Next we have 3 characters tied at 5 support cards each. Rin received a full wave of Wind Witch support in Blazing Vortex. Silvio got new upgrades for his Abyss Actor deck, mostly from Photon Hypernova. And Suzuboy received 5 new support cards for her Melodious deck in Legacy of Destruction. Suzu's placement is one of the biggest surprises to me, because while she only got 5 cards, her deck is arguably the strongest out of all the Arc 5 character decks right now. Definitely a case of quality over quantity. After that, 2 characters tied at 4 support cards each. Suzu's rival Julia Crystal got new Gem Knight cards in Power of the Elements, and Shinji received a set of new Battle Wasp cards in Rage of the Abyss. Then we have 4 more characters with 3 support cards each. Aura and Olga, and Nagi and Frederick. Now look, I'm usually all for supporting the lesser known characters, but Frederick? He got 3 new support cards. Meanwhile, Yuri is starving for support, and Yuto, my favorite Arc 5 character, is barely hanging on. This screams Konami intern's last day prank to me. Anyway, moving on from the prank picks to the bare minimum tier, Chojuro and the Sledgehammer both clock in with 2 support cards, while Kid Blade, Dipper and Yusho Sakaki received just 1, and Yusho's card could arguably count toward Yuya instead. And finally, we come to one of the greatest injustices in Arc 5 history, the Stomp Troopers. A single support card, that's all Konami gave them. Truly disgraceful. I mean, I completely forgot they existed until I stumbled across that card in my research, but still, they deserved better. And that wraps up all the characters. But we still got a few generic Arc 5 cards to go over. Battle Royal mode joining referenced the unique dueling format from the show where duelists could jump into duels already in progress. Kaioregetsu is a clear nod to all the 4 of the Bracelet girls. Since it connects to all of them and not just one, I counted it as generic Arc 5 supports. Then we have Beyond the Pendulum and Exceed the Pendulum. And I'll be honest, I don't know how to categorize these. They're clearly inspired by Rei Akaba. But should they really count toward her? She didn't exactly duel, she activated a few spell cards and that's it. So I left these under generic Arc 5 supports. But if you think they should be counted for Rei, let me know in the comments. Now for some of the most noticeable characters who got completely ignored over the past 5 years. Riley Akaba's Double C archetype still doesn't exist in the game. And Leo Akaba's Spirit deck hasn't seen the light of day either. And the biggest shock to me, not a single new card for Selena's Lunar Lights. The only Bracelet girl that didn't get any support. In total, Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 ended up with 183 support cards over the last 5 years, making it the second most supported series of them all. And what's actually really interesting to see in this graph is that Arc 5 was neck and neck with Duel Monsters for quite a while. But right around the release of Maze of Millennia in January 2024, Duel Monsters suddenly took off. That set alone gave a huge boost. And when you factor in that the TCG has introduced exclusive Duel Monster support for the past 3 years, it's no wonder Arc 5 started to fall behind. However, if you take the TCG exclusive support out of the equation, Duel Monsters ended up with 198 support cards, just 50 more than Arc 5. Which actually suggests on the OCG side of things, the support between Arc 5 and the original series is surprisingly balanced. So now I want to hear from you. Which Arc 5 character do you think deserves more support? And how would you categorize those Ninja and Rei inspired cards? And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more anime support breakdowns like this. Meanwhile, I'll be crying myself to sleep every night until Yuto finally gets the support he deserves. I'll see you later.